Hi there, it's Diane, the Evolved Dietitian here today. Question for you. Do you know anyone with dementia? Does dementia concern you yet? It didn't concern me for a long time, not until my father came down with Alzheimer's dementia. That's one form of it, the most common form. But then a friend, not much older than myself, came down with it. And then a friend's parent. And then this, and then that. The trend isn't going away, it's getting worse. Actually, 1 in 9 of us after the age of 65 is estimated to come down with dementia. And it's not so much that we'll get dementia and we'll be a little silly. It can kill us. And it's not so much about dying early, is it? It's about living until we die. It's not the way that I want to live. If there is something that I could do to prevent it, I want to know about it. In 20 years, that 1 in 9 is supposed to change to 1 in 5. It's not going to be me, and I don't want it to be you. So I invited a special friend of mine named Dr. Cynthia Guy. She's done a lot of research in this area, not only because she wants to help others, but because she wants to help herself and her family. You'll see. So please enjoy this very moving conversation between Cynthia and I, and stay tuned for a special announcement we have coming up very soon. And well, there's a little hint of it in this video as well. And we all have a brain. Our brain matters. Our cognition matters. Your memory, your health, your overall wellness matters until the day you die. And yes, prevention is possible and prevention is key. So enjoy this video. Thank you.
Certainly. Good morning, my dear Diane. I am honored that you have me here talking to you today. It is such a pleasure. Thank you very much. Well, I had to go into early retirement 23 years ago when I became totally clumsy, so to speak, dropping everything, falling down. And after about 5 years of doing this, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That was 23 years ago. And I had to go into early retirement, which I did. Not happily, but I did it because I really enjoyed what I was doing. I was a former anesthesiologist. I was in charge of a major department of anesthesia. And in retrospect, I probably should not have had that job because it was very, very stressful. But I did it anyway. But 7 years later, after my diagnosis, my husband started having cognitive changes. He had a bizarre behavior. He was grumpy for no reason. He got very forgetful. And after much ado, he was diagnosed with vascular dementia. And that was the beginning of a complete transformation of our lives.
Yep.
So here we are today, sharing my story, and hopefully attempting to get everybody in sync to avoid brain matters today, tomorrow, or in the future.
Well, that explains your passion. I can relate to it because when you mentioned your daughters ask you, Mom, are we going to have the same fate? That impacted me as well because I'm a daughter of an Alzheimer's patient. You bury yourself into this topic of dementia, haven't you?
Yes, I started doing research, Diane, because I didn't have an answer for my daughter when she asked that question. And even though she's a physician, she didn't have this answer. I didn't have the answer as a physician. I didn't have the answer either. So I started doing research over 10 years ago. And the research shows us that perhaps perhaps we carry 1 or 2 genes or no genes. And even if we have no genes to express dementia, we can still have brain changes. Isn't that fascinating?
Mm-hmm.
So you probably are thinking, should I have a gene study to determine? Well, when you read the science behind it, some people say you absolutely should and take charge if you do have the gene, and maybe you shouldn't, because when insurance company research your health data and see that you have a gene, maybe you will not get covered. So maybe it's better not to know and start doing all the precautionary measures to prevent dementia as one ages.
I didn't even think of that.
Well,
Wow.
I didn't either because I was going to recommend my daughters to have the test done. And I said, let everything stay as it is and probably just do all the recommendations that are given today to prevent cognitive changes as we old. Because in reality, we have to start this early rather than late. I started it late because I recognized that with an autoimmune condition such as multiple sclerosis and other autoimmune conditions, one can have cognitive decline as time progresses. Just from the autoimmunity itself, we can have brain changes.
Yep.
So the important thing is we should all be working on the prevention side of things rather than saying, well, I don't have the gene, or my mother had it, or my father did, etc., etc. Let's be cautious, let's pay attention, and that's what this is all about today, is prevention.
Yeah. I like to assume that I have any kind of gene that can cause a problem, so I take better care of myself anyway. And there are some people that if they have it, self-fulfilling prophecy will take over and they will sabotage their own health. So yeah, it's a slippery slope. Of course, I don't mind if people, how do you feel about it? Do go ahead and find out. I think knowledge can be power depending on how they use it, right? Is there a way for people to get testing without their insurance? So they don't have to worry about that?
Yes, there absolutely. You can go to your neurologist and ask to be tested with very simple questionnaires that they're so simple that you probably wouldn't pay attention and you probably fail the test. It's so simple. They give you 3 or 4 words to remember. Remember these words: apple, orange, banana, potato, and they will keep on conversation with you. And 3 minutes later, they say, well, give me those words that I gave you a while ago. And you go like, words? What words? You failed the test. You don't remember apple, orange. You can rapidly fail the test if you're not focused. So
gotta sleep good the night before.
Yeah, they're testing your memory,
yeah,
your perception, your judgment, and your awareness. So 4 words, and you rapidly forget 2 of the 4 words. What's with that? Is that, did you pass the test? Well, it's for the neurologist to tell you yes or no. Yeah. So there's little things to do. There's also the clock. They have you draw a clock, which is a circle, and determine what is 12 o'clock, 3, 6, 9. And it's interesting. My husband had this test done every time he visited the psychiatrist. And at first he could do it pretty accurate. At least he had 3 of the hours. He had 12, 3, and 6. He couldn't remember the 9. And as time progresses, he couldn't even do the 12 o'clock. So it's sort of like a little in-house game you could play to determine how things are going. Although just by behavior alone, you can determine the progression or lack of progression of your loved one. Now, it's recommended that you shouldn't do it by yourself. You should do it with a doctor. But what's so complicated? to tell your loved
What's
one,
the
let's
harm?
talk. I mean, there's no harm to this. It's not complicated, but it will give one a sense of where we are with this progress or lack of progress with my loved one. Where are we today?
Yep.
So that's just something to bear in mind. There are other tests that are involved a little bit more sophistication, but these are two simple tests. The words, number one, the 4 words, keep up the conversation, and the clock. I mean, these are simple things that one can do without running to the neurologist every time you want to determine on your own how things are going.
I forgot something.
Right.
Not that it's a bad thing to get checked out, but there are some other things that could be going on that we might notice about a loved one or ourselves. Can you name some of those?
Well, interestingly enough, our inability to remember why we just entered a room, not once, but all the time, like on a frequent basis. I mean, sometimes you're so distracted that you enter a room like, what did I come in here for? Oh, I came in for the book, or I came in finding my paper that I left on the desk. Maybe you have a lot of things on your mind, but if this happened continuously on a daily basis, it's like, Cynthia, what is happening here? You need to pay attention. If it's not happening to yourself, it's happening to a loved one. For example, my husband, he declared himself as the chef of the family, and he forgot he was cooking. And this didn't happen once, it happened all the time until I decided there's something going on here. How can you forget you're cooking? That created an really clamoring attention to me that I should look into this. And that's when I started taking it to doctors and trying to find an answer. The chef that burns the food every day. What is
Sounds
this?
like a book right there. The chef that burnt the food.
Yep, yep.
Sad book, hard book. And that's why we're trying to avoid this by helping others, right?
Correct.
And yeah, I remember those days with my father. He became the chef at around 40. He was very proud to come up with new recipes all through his life. And then one day, my husband and I were out of town, and I got a call from my mom that your dad just burnt the kitchen. So basically, he burned a pan. Thank God that's all that happened. But that day, we went straight to Home Depot, and we got the outlets that you could turn on and off from afar. So, and then the cameras, and then an aid, and then this, and then that. Yeah. Tell me about, and I could add to it if you need to, when he was at the doctor and he was getting evaluated, did you feel, how did it feel? And did you feel like you had any hope with the treatment?
I really thought at that point that my husband perhaps was too advanced in his cognitive decline. But we gave it a try with
Good.
the medications that were ordered, and he only got worse. And that was approximately 15 years ago. And even though the medical literature tells us that there are new medications out there today, if one has early cognitive decline, but at the tune of $26,500 a year for the medication, with a copay of about 5,000. No, correct. It's 26,500 a month. Some ridiculous cost, but the
Wow.
copay is very high for most individuals who are in this very delicate stage that is probably not readily accessible to those who are starting to have cognitive decline. Additionally, the side adverse reactions that can occur are not very heartwarming. At 30%, you can have brain swelling or brain bleed.
Yeah,
You have to
I've
have,
heard of that.
yeah, you can have to have frequent MRIs. And in totality, in a year's time, between the cost of the medicine and the additional testing that one needs, It comes up to about 86,000 a year.
And do they work? If it
Well,
doesn't kill you and you can afford it, does it even work? Do they even work?
only if 30% have adverse events, 70%, how much does it really help? So with this in mind, when you see what's offered to you or to your loved one with cognitive impairment, what are the other choices do we have? And I'm here to share with you, Diane, that we have other choices, but we need to pay attention and start doing it, because basically we have to work it. It doesn't happen like magic because the steps are numerous and it can be overwhelming. But I think if we do one step at a time, like with you, I would like to mention, the job that you do, the work that you do to serve humanity, nutrition. Nutrition is key. So I'm sure you have done your own research on what can help us. So maybe you can share us nutritionally, what can one do if one is experiencing some mild cognitive impairment? And here we put the word mild because that's important.
And I actually like to say that nutrition, it can make or break any treatment. So even if you have a mycotoxin or you have Alzheimer's or you have whatever you have, we all need that layer of proper nutrition for everything else to work right anyway. Because a lot of things are even immune related. Sometimes the immune system might go awry, but if you have the proper nutrition and other little things, things can be regulated, and then you can find out what else might be the real root cause. Maybe it is just nutrition, improper nutrition, that's the root cause. Maybe it's something else, but we always need the underlying proper nutrition. And oftentimes it is a metabolic issue, as you know, I'm sure. It's the sugars, the processed foods, seed oils, improper or inadequate healthy fats is huge. We forget about that. And of course, we might surprise people by what we mean by healthy fat. And that's something I get into with my clients. And it's amazing. Once people start eating real food, proper food for their body, so you get rid of the toxic load, you free up the body's healing ability. It is amazing what I've seen, how people are healing in every way, including their brain. Yeah, and I know that you're passionate about that because dementia is just one thing that can be helped by proper nutrition. So thanks for mentioning that.
Well, the other factor, Diana, thank you so much for mentioning the nutrition and the important things in nutrition that you so well mentioned: the processed food, the sugar, the oils, increased loads of carbohydrates that we really pack on our dish every day. Then we shouldn't have all that excess carbohydrates going. But the next factor that is so crucial in avoiding cognitive impairment is exercise. Our brain loves exercise, and it's so important to incorporate at least 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week in walking. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to have the heavy equipment at home to do all these things. Just go out and walk for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, for a total of 115 minutes a week. We devote sometimes ourselves to Netflix for hours. Well, maybe we should instead be walking, because what it does for our brain is amazing. The science has shown us that in exercising, we work on our weight, we work on our brain, we work on our mood that makes us feel engaged with the world. All these things are the benefits of exercise just by walking. I myself have problems with mobility, and I have equipped myself at home with a new step machine, which allows me to do my walking on sitting down, pedaling away on my new step machine. And I try to do no less than 2 miles a day. And you probably say, oh, 2 miles is nothing. Well, it takes me an hour because my mobility isn't there. But if I do my 2 miles a day, it's a good day. The day that I don't is not a good day.
I have to let the audience know a little bit more about you. Is that okay?
Oh, sure.
Because I don't think anyone would ever guess your age because you're looking better than me. What the heck?
Please.
Yes.
No.
So I want you to tell us your age and why you're talking about your mobility being a little off, if that's okay.
Oh, certainly. I would love to share my story. Well, I'm happy to say that listen to the word happy, underline that I'm 83 years old. I feel good about my age actually because I want to be a centenarian. I want to make it to 100, but with the brain going, the brain gotta work. So when I learned that people with autoimmunity conditions can have cognitive decline, I decided when I started doing my research over a decade ago on the brain matters, exercise was mentioned because when I was diagnosed 23 years ago, I was told not to exercise, that it wasn't going to be good for me. And I go like, really? And I was addicted at that time to spinning, which is exercise with music and a bicycle. I used to go to marathon spinning in Los Angeles with my daughters, with Johnny G when spinning started 25 years ago. So I was addicted to that. And when they told me I couldn't exercise, I was devastated that it wasn't going to be good for me. But that was only short run because shortly thereafter, like 4 years later, I learned from another neurologist, Cynthia, do your exercises.
Good.
So I started doing exercises and I was able to keep my weight at a normal range. I was able to feel good about myself when I exercise because I'm really addicted to the endorphins that exercise creates in me because I could have depression going on in my life. That's not good. So that's my story at 83. I have to get in my steps with my machine, even though I cannot walk erect. The machine is like a sitting elliptical. You sit down and you do your walking, you move your pedals. And I do it for an hour for a total of approximately 2 miles.
No excuses, everybody. No excuses.
Exactly. But we all have excuse when we don't want to do it. Not only in exercise, but in eating the right foods, in getting our sleep, in socializing. Sometimes the social involvement as we age is crucial. We need to be involved in community. We need to be involved with our family, with friends, with our neighbors. It's okay to say good morning as you're walking and you see your neighbor. Say good morning, how are you doing? But some of us enter into solitude, into a mode of protection, I suppose. But it doesn't have to be this way. It is a good world if we seek it. So be kind, say hello, engage. Those are the words.
Those are nice ones, nice pillars. So you have the nutrition, you have the exercise, you have the social, and there's a few others, but those I see as the biggies, right?
Well, another biggie, let's not forget sleep.
Sleep.
I mean, we can do the all-nighters like when we were in college studying for an exam. I mean, as I look back, the many sleepless nights that I had as an anesthesiologist, working all night, and then the next day still on duty. What's that about?
It's kind of scary, isn't it?
That is not good.
That's good
I
for
mean,
you, but not good for the hospital.
as I look back 30 some years later, what was I doing to my brain? So sleep is important. We have to respect, we have to develop a rhythm of sleep. We have to develop a discipline. We should have at least 6 to 7 or 8 hours of sleep. And we should have a rhythm to it. And we should respect that. And because when we sleep, there's a system in our brain that comes into play. It's called the lymphatic system that drains toxin out from our brain that we accumulate during the daytime. So that's important to remember. We need to give this a wash at night while we sleep. And I think that if we remember that we're washing our brain from toxic things, get a good night's sleep, because it would improve our mood and makes us feel good. Even though we have a rough day coming ahead of us, we can handle it if we sleep
Yeah.
well.
That's so true. That's so true. Next time somebody wakes me up, I'm gonna yell at them for interrupting my brain bath.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you have some kind of a program you're talking about here.
Yes, I have invited my dear Diane and my dear Karen to join me in this program. Diane with nutrition and Karen with the stress management part, which is also key in making our brain functional. We have to handle stress. How do we handle stress? I mean, stress is part of our life. We cannot do without stress.
Never know.
So how do we handle this on a daily basis? Handle stress with, should I say, elegance, with clarity, and let it flow and not affect our blood pressure and everything else that comes with it. That's Karen's job. Additionally, we have beautiful Diane. We're starting this program on Brain Matters. And we'll be having a seminar in the not too distant future on Mental Health Day, telling people how to be aware, how to become so aware of cognitive changes, and how it's never too early or too late to start working on this. I started working on this when my husband had changes. I said, gee, am I going to get like my husband? And let me tell you, taking care of a loved one with cognitive impairment is not an easy job.
It's
So
hard enough just with regular life issues, but when you have someone to care for, the stress level is just outrageous. So you need to armor your own body so that you can handle not just everyday stress, but stressors like that as a caregiver, right?
absolutely. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I would like to invite all the listeners to look out for the notices of our next webinar on Mental Health Day with my dear Diane and my dear Karen. We will give you tips of how to become aware and how to start taking care of yourself. And this, my friends, is totally for free. So treat yourself kindly, listen to our webinar, and start paying attention and start it to be part of your day. If it's even one thing you can do a check mark on that you did for yourself that day, is totally worth it. And I so appreciate the opportunity, Diane, Karen, who's listening, for all this, because you deserve it and you're worth it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, doctor. Let me ask you, where can we find you? What is your website?
TheHealthEnrichment.com is the website, or The Health Enrichment. You can find me on Facebook under Health Enrichment, and soon to be on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Thank you so much, doctor. You're going to give people a wake-up call, number one, but also hope that they can help themselves not come to the demise that so many people are dealing with these days. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.